Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. I think I've got everybody covered. Welcome to the How Long to Beat podcast. This week, as always, I'm Rick and I'm joined by Alex and Paula. And I don't know if any of you listening have got any shiny new PlayStation or Xbox themed toys this week, but we've all had a bit of an early Christmas hoard, haven't we, guys?
Oh, yes, we have.
We have.
We have indeed. I've bought myself not a shiny, but a very yellow cyberpunk themed mouse. Paula has got a gaming haul straight from Chill Express, the refrigerated shipping company. Inside joke. And Alex has got himself an Xbox One. How are you finding it, Alex?
An Xbox One, yeah. Sure. I got myself an Xbox Series X.
That wasn't a joke. Their names fucking suck. That wasn't even intentional.
Yeah, I have a Series X and a beautiful Elite controller too, and I'm sure I will be talking about this a lot over the next couple of weeks because it is dominating the games that I play now. Speaking of that, this week we're going to talk all about stuff that we've beaten, retired. We've got part 2 of our Games of the Generation, the handheld edition. A lovely question from the forums. We're going to talk some more about what we're playing, and we'll play everyone's favorite game. How Long to Beat? The game. Not yet trademarked, but soon. Paula, do you want to take it off with what you've beaten this week?
I finally finished Color Cross Malice. And that's pretty much it. I had a lot of fun with this replay, not gonna lie. And
Wait, I completely forgot this was a replay. So hold on, because how many endings does this game have again? Can you just go over that one more time?
Oh yeah. Color Cross Malice, the first game, has the grand total of 37 endings.
And so you've replayed those 37 endings. Very nice.
Pretty much.
It's probably the benefit. With a normal game, you remember the one ending. With 37, it's easy to forget which is which.
Sorry, keep
I
going.
think, like at the very least, I like that for the remake they actually made a checklist because I saw I was missing an ending and I wasn't sure which one. And at least I knew more or less the route because they're ordered by character routes. So it was very easy for me to figure out which one I was missing.
Yeah,
the game is pretty good. The game is pretty good. The story, the characters. It's been a while since I play a game, visual novel, or any kind of media where there wasn't a single useless character.
Wow.
Every single character serves to the plot in quite one way or another. And many characters had a lot to do with the mystery at hand. So for anyone who enjoys visual novels, and for anyone who enjoys a good mystery, play Color Cross Malice.
And speaking of playing it, what's the game like mechanically? Is it just a case of picking dialogue choices and which path you take down the tree, or is there an actual? Not to be dismissive, because I don't necessarily mind that either way. I've heard loads about the story. The story's amazing. I want to know, and I'm sure the listeners want to know what's the game like.
As for the quote unquote gameplay, it is almost like your usual visual novel.
Right. So just
and there's a little added mechanic that it actually plays into some of the endings you get. That is the I think it was called trigger mode. That is a quick time event.
Okay.
But besides that, this one isn't at all heavy on gameplay. All the emphasis is on the actual mystery.
And the story, right?
Oh, that's kind of cool. So it'd be less less like a Phoenix Wright game where you have the investigating and more just pure dialogue decisions and stuff, huh?
You actually have small investigations investigation segments, but you don't have to actually like present the evidence. But they're like little segments where you can try to put the mystery together. Like they do a refresher of the case, and they start asking you questions like, what do you think the motive is? Or what do you think is going on? And it actually lends itself well to the usual visual novel formula. Because you already select from a group of options.
Okay.
That's pretty cool.
Sounds a bit Hotel. Yeah.
It reminds me a little, like I would be, Paula, I think it'd be interesting if you tried Paradise Killer. Like, have you heard of this one?
Paradise Killer? No.
I talked about this a while
I have. Is
back.
that the one?
Yeah,
you're like on an island and you've got to work out I remember seeing some coverage of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a visual novel except with like slight platforming things. So it's sort of like this polygon style, like polygonal style, like old school kind of vaporware feel, or vaporwave, I guess. And it's like an investigation one, but you're going through with all these characters and like beautiful art style, by the way, like just gorgeous. And the whole point is that you're like trying to investigate this big mystery. But it's like it's done through these dialogue conversations with all these different characters. And yeah, anyway, listening to this game you're playing, it sounds to me like I think you would enjoy that one quite a bit. Plus, I would love to talk to someone about it.
That actually sounds like right up my alley. Where can I get it?
You can just download it.
It's on everything.
I don't think it had a physical release, but yeah, it's on Switch. It's only like $24 or $5, something like that, I think. I don't know. It's not a full release price. It's honestly, it was cheaper than it probably should be. Like when I played it, I was like, would have paid more for this probably. But yeah.
I'm gonna have to give it a look then.
Yeah, do it.
Going from what you've paid to what you've played, Alex, because that was the only one Paula's got. What have you beaten?
Yeah. So, oh God, I feel like we were talking a bit before the podcast started about how I'm like, I need to stop playing games that everyone loves because I feel like I'll just let people down on this
your
one.
Week. Last week was my week. Now it's you.
Yeah. So, okay, I beat 2 games this week. I beat Silent Hill 2 and I beat Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks. And I'll start with Silent Hill 2. And I talked about this a few weeks ago. And basically at the time, the conversation was kind of that, like, it's interesting, but mechanically it's severely outdated, and could just really use with some, tender loving care. Basically, it needs some TLC at this point. It's just not that good. The acting is hilarious. I mean, it is genuinely bonkers. And I mean, that is actually a point for the game, I have to say. Like, there are scenes where it's just like, Maria? What are you doing here? Oh, no. Like that style, like the 90s. Like, it's like, oh, we've come a long way. Like, especially in a year where you play something like Last of Us Part 2. And like, whatever you think about that game, you can hate it, you can love it, whatever. It's obviously well performed. And like, when you go back to a game like this, you're just like, it's charming in some ways, but also just intense in others. So yeah, that's one part of it. And I can forgive that part easily. But the other issue is that, like, mechanically it's tank controls. So I'm not totally opposed to these. And for those who don't understand what I mean by like tank controls, it's the kind of the idea that, like, when you push forward, it moves your character forward. But like, so if you
left and right are rotational rather than strafing.
Yeah, exactly, right? So like if you press left, you're going to start to turn your body left, and then you have to keep pressing forward to move forward. And it's not intuitive anymore, right? Like this was a way to work around 3 dimensions at the time, and it was important at the time, but it's also because you had fixed cameras. So you're really like, it's almost like playing in a diorama, which can take some time to get used to. I've played Resident Evil HD this year, so like it wasn't that off for me. I was like, I'm used to this, but it's just really, really, really slow. And I highly recommend to anybody who plays this to like go into your settings. There are these hidden settings. I think you have to press like the control, like R1 and R2 at the same time or something. And it opens up a secret list of settings in the game. Look it up. I might be wrong about the exact buttons, but there's a secret settings menu. And in that menu, you can press a button that makes it so that your character always runs, because you have to press a button to make him run. And there is zero reason for him to walk in this game ever. You never need him to walk. So like just get that on and go. And I don't know. It's just like I wasn't scared because in reality, none of the enemies are that intimidating. You know, like they come at you kind of quickly, but you're so slow in your movements. You're like hitting with crowbars and stuff and with guns. And I don't know. It just wasn't really didn't grab me. And the story was kind of interesting, and I'm sure for the time it was interesting. It's more psychological, but like it's actually so vague at times that you're kind of like, and this is what's weird, it's vague in some respects to the point where you're like, what's going on? And then it's like insanely obvious in others, which creates this weird balance where like parts of it you're like, ooh, what's this mystery, but you're never going to figure it out. It's just random. And then other parts are like, oh, so this is what's happening. And then you're like, got it. So yeah, I don't know. I wish I liked it more than I did. I think it's worth experiencing. It's definitely not bad. I just really wish someone would modernize it. Like if this game got a modernization like Resident Evil 2 did, it would be amazing. It has all the qualities there to be a good game. It's just stuck in the past, right? Which is not its fault. I mean, it was made when it was made, but yeah.
Also, would you trust Konami with that kind of a job?
God, no.
Because they couldn't even get the remaster right, let alone a full-on remake.
Oh yeah, I just no trust whatsoever. So anyway, that's my take on it. It's probably a solid 7. You know, good, not amazing, but good. I think you know what too. So one last thing on this. I think this game, I don't think a lot of people have played Silent Hill, to be honest. And I think those who have played it love it because it's a game made for them, right? Like there are those who really enjoy it. And so I think with time now, this series is kind of looked on extremely fondly, but I get why it hasn't been made again. It's very niche. And I appreciate that about it. I appreciate how many were made, but it is kind of a niche thing, you know, like it's a psychological game that's not too intense and that like is kind of slow moving. And I can see how maybe it didn't pick up because with, you know what I mean? Like with the way that Resident Evil moved and with the way games went more action oriented, I can see how it fell away, but I do think we're positioned for a moment where it could really come back well. Like, you know, with games like Death Stranding and stuff, it's like, I think now if there were ever a time for a game like this to come back, I think now would be the time.
Again, Konami is your obstacle. So.
I know. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, they had the golden ticket in their hands with PT, and they went and
I know, and
blew that.
It's so good. PT is so good. Anyway, yeah. So I don't know. I'm interested to hear what people think about Silent Hill too. I want to know what people who really love it, why they love it, because I'd be really curious. Anyway, the other game that I beat was Spirit Tracks, and
Tread carefully.
Listen. Oh my God, this game goes off the rails in the last.
You've been planning that all week, haven't you?
I thought of it today, and I was like, "That's gonna be funny." But like, to characterize my experience with this game, I think I played about 18 hours. I think was where my time ended up. There are a ton of secrets in this game that I just don't care about because they're not advertised, and like they don't. I guess you can customize your train. Cool. It's just it's aesthetic. You hardly even look at your train because you're staring at everything else. But anyway, the first portion of this game is great. The dungeons, exploring the tower, really awesome. Then you get to the last section of the game, which is about the last 10%, and it's the last time you enter into the tower. And all the puzzles become about moving fucking Zelda in these stupid freaking armored pieces of shit. And like, I'm telling you right now, I'm sorry for anyone who doesn't like curses, but oh my God, I was this close to retiring this game because it was like, oh, now the puzzle is, you know, you have to control Link over here. Now use your stylus to move the armored guy over here. But be careful, he can't get noticed. Like, it's like all this stuff where it's just like, it wasn't fun and it wasn't intuitive. And then there's all this train stuff. Like you have to like go on, like try and crash into trains and stuff. Oh my God. It's not fun. And like there's another battle where you have to like move your Zelda character up, and then like the final battle is literally pattern recognition. Like that's it. It's just like, can you tap on the screen in the right order at the right time? Like there's zero. It's so disappointing. It was so disappointing. It was like everything that I had issue with the game. Which was like, some of the train elements, I was like, the train's cool, but sometimes the train is very unwieldy. And I was like, that's not always great. I was like, blowing into that pan flute, it's not the best thing ever. Controlling the Zelda character can be a little hit or miss because you have to use your stylus to draw a path, but you have a limited window to see where you're drawing the path. And then you also have to control Link. I was like, those things are all tough. And then the game was like, oh, you don't like those? How about we make those all you do for the end of the game? You're like, yeah, so I just, oh my God, I don't know. Like, I think I see why it died after this game. Like, they didn't make any games like this anymore. They just stopped. And I'm like, I think I maybe get it. I don't know, Rick.
I mean, that was right. First off, why they didn't make more. Bear in mind, they were making Ocarina of Time again, and this was right before the 3DS came out. Also, Spirit Tracks was made in a year.
Yeah.
And 6 months of that was the train.
Yeah. No, I can believe it, actually. Only because of the end. Because everything was so excellent, but then the end feels rushed. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, it sort of was. That's kind of my point.
Yeah.
And I do remember the ending being a step down from the quality of the game before it. Mm-hmm. I definitely didn't have the wet fart experience that it sounded like you did.
Yeah.
But it does peak a touch early. Mm-hmm. But that game is amazing. Like you said, dungeon design is fantastic. Mm-hmm. I will die on the hill that is Spirit Tracks' train. Not only is the train theme the best piece of music in any Zelda game ever.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Yes, at me. But I really enjoyed it. I preferred it to the boat because the boat, although you had more freedom, it also felt much more dull and rote and slow. Whereas
That's
with
fair.
the train, because they know where you're going, they're actually able to structure things around it more. Mm-hmm. And I felt that moment to moment, that gameplay was more engaging. And I just remember having a really wonderful time.
And see,
with all of that game.
I would actually say, and this is like a little weird for me, but like I would say that for this game, you should play it up until the final like Spirit Tower section, which you'll know what I'm talking about. And then just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop, watch it on YouTube. Yeah. Because honestly, you have experienced, like, because it's really only like an hour maybe that's left at that point. So frankly, you've already experienced an excellent game at that point. Just leave it alone. Like, don't touch the ending. Who cares? Watch it. Because honestly, when you're playing it, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Because I agree with you. Like, I actually found the rest of it to just be really awesome. And a lot to explore. And then I was so sad that it didn't stick the landing like that. But it makes more sense when you're saying, too, that it was developed in a year. I'm like, yeah, I think I get it. I'm like, they got the main part of the game. And they're like, shit, we got to end this friggin' game.
I mean, it was basically Majora's Mask 2.0, where it's like, we've got an engine. We've got a setup that we know works. Mm-hmm. Now let's experiment within time and financial and other constraints and see what sticks to the wall, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, tie this up in a bow. How would you rate the game if you'd stopped before you touched the ending? And how would you rate the game having played the ending?
Oh, that is actually interesting. I would probably give it a 9 before, and I'd give it a 7 after the ending, because the ending really hits hard. Yeah, I actually rated it 7. I might change it. Maybe I'll put it as an 8. But like it, I know, it's just honestly like when you hit that ending, I was just like, it really soured the experience. Like it. Yeah, and so, but again, like I said, if I had stopped, solid 9. Like that's my advice to everyone. Play it because it is actually a phenomenal game. Except for that little last section there.
People sleep on it. Fun little anecdote that's just reoccurred to me. When Ocarina of Time first came out, they had like a little event in a city in England, not where I live, but we happened to be there when it was on. And they were doing these so it was like celebrating, I think there was an anniversary when Ocarina came out as well. So it was like an all-in-one thing. They were giving out ocarinas in the back and they were teaching you how to play Zelda's Lullaby and various things on them. And they had all these little activities. And I remember one of the attendees, I got talking to them, like, what's your favourite of the Zelda games? And I think, to be fair, at that time, I had only played the DS one. So I was like, Spirit Tracks. And they gave me a look unlike any look I've ever received.
Just pure, like, what are you on about? Just like full.
Yeah. Like I'd announced I was pregnant and it's theirs. Like,
like this kid wasn't born when Ocarina came out. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So
nice.
yeah.
All right, but that's all for me though. But what about you, Rick? What have you been playing?
Okay, I've beaten 2 games, or rather a game and a DLC, and sticking sort of slightly with the Zelda theme. The first of those 2 is Ultimate NES Remix. So Zelda and Zelda 2 are represented. I don't really have anything new to say. Everything I said last week still applied. It took me another maybe 4 hours to beat the rest of the game's content. And just across the board, even the games where I wasn't as enamored with them as games in and of themselves, because you're playing these little bite-sized chunks with discrete challenges to complete, and it's like a 3-star scoring system that motivates you to do better and focus on it. It does a really good job of making those games accessible and recontextualizing them as someone who's come back to them. And I imagine if you'd played them the first time round, it's a nice way to revisit them as well. But it's a solid package. I gave it an 8. I think it's really enjoyable, and if it's something you have access to, if it looks like it's interesting to you, you will probably enjoy it. I think it's one of those where you know whether you're its target audience or not going in. The other thing I've played is the second DLC pack for Control, which stands for Altered World Event, but people, somewhat understandably, joked in the run-up it was probably going to be Alan Wake expansion, because this pack sort of leans very heavily into Alan Wake. So if you don't want Alan Wake spoilers, I won't spoil the story of the DLC, but I will be touching on things of Alan Wake. So if you still have to play that Xbox 360 game from 2011, feel free to skip forward a couple of minutes. Basically, what Remedy have tried to do, the developer, is tie those 2 games together into a unified universe. So there are, I wouldn't say retcons, but new pieces of information, new links being drawn, recontextualizes not only Alan Wake and the incidental characters around him specifically. So Thomas Zane, Mr. Scratch, Emil Hartman, Alice, but also the world in which they live, and it makes a crossover between 2 seemingly very different enemies in the shadows from Alan Wake and the Hiss from Control. And I won't say what it implies because that would be a bit of a spoiler and that wouldn't be very nice, because I do think you should play this DLC. If you played the base game Control and you loved it, as I did, there's no way you don't love the 2 expansions, because they both give you more of the same, but with new tools added to the playbot and new things thrown in to sort of switch things up and make you use those tools differently. So, for example, in the first DLC pack, one of the abilities that you pick up, it's not a critical path ability, but it would be hard to miss it, is a shield that you can pull up. So obviously you have these telekinetic powers, and you press L1 on a PS4 pad, and Christ, what's her name? I've literally just played it. Jessie pulls all these pieces of debris and object from around her and brings them up into a wall in front of her. I didn't really use it in the base game because it's purely defensive, and once you've got it, you're then limited in terms of launching things and firing your gun, and it also obscures your vision a little bit. Not a lot, but enough to be a problem. What the first DLC pack did is they said, right, well, now what you can do is once you've brought that shield up, you can then throw it forward. So it gives it an offensive element. It makes it useful in close combat where you're actually somewhat limited depending on the guns you pick. DLC pack did something similar with the multi-launch ability, so you can pick up multiple things to throw rather than just the one. And it's little tweaks that expand what is already a really good combat system into something even better in the context of a story that's really gripping and engaging and does new things, and makes me very glad that I played Alan Wake, because it throws a lot of real neat references through that. For all the flaws that game had, I did appreciate having an understanding of. It's fantastic. It's really good. The season pass isn't very expensive. Hell, the game, if you're buying shiny new toys or if you're keeping your old toy, the Ultimate Edition is like £35 or your regional equivalent. And I think for the base game and between the two DLCs, maybe 10 or 12 hours of extra content on top, I think it's absolutely worth looking at. And given some of the threads they dangled at the end, I'm quite keen to see what they do next with it. Did either of you play Control, by the way?
I did, yeah.
I didn't.
You didn't. You should. You have a PS4. You've got you've got excuses. That's not fair. It's good. It's worth it. What did you think about Alex?
I liked it. Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't like blown away by it, but I enjoyed the experience. I honestly, I think I was playing on an original PS4 and it was a little
Performance
slow.
Is great. Yeah. It's the only reason it's not a 10 for me. It lags coming in and out of menus, but like when you're in motion, it's fine. And I'm used to playing on a potato PC, so I'm probably more forgiving of that kind of performance quibble than most.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think that's a game that's actually going to be better on the next gen consoles.
100%.
Yeah, with a little more power behind
Definitely.
it. Yeah, it'll feel better. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we move on to what we've retired this week? Paula, nothing for you this week?
Nothing for me this week. I'm not a big retire, I guess.
That's fair. Me neither. I mean, the only thing that I might retire Gunslinger just temporarily, and it's not because I don't like it. It's literally just because I just got Game Pass, and let me just say, my time's a little occupied now. So I'm definitely going to beat that game, but it just might be a little later. What about you, Rick? I see you got something here.
I have, and it's only sort of semi-retirement. So, story time. I, as you both know, I'm a bit of an eBay fiend, and one of the bargains I thought I'd snagged was a game called Point Blank for the DS. So it's like a shooting gallery thing. It's one I remember seeing in shops when I was little, but never being interested enough to like put the pocket money together and get. So I saw it. It was stupid cheap even with shipping. I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. Anyway, it arrives. The cartridge doesn't work, so I'm having to send it back. But that's not why I retired it. I thought, well, I've got the instruction manual. I've got an R4 card for like import games that I couldn't get a hold of anyway. Why don't I boot it up and give it a go and see if I even want to bid on it again? I don't. It's not very good. There's not really a lot there. This is the thing. Mechanically, it's fine. It works. But it's wafer thin on content. And if you think about it, it sort of makes sense because it's like the shooting game from Wii Play, but with touch controls, and that's all of the games.
Oh,
there's only so many ways you can dress up touch the target as it appears, unfortunately. So I kind of played through one of the intermediary stages once, got to the end of it, and was like, right, I'm done with that now. There's no reason for me ever to go back.
That is definitely fair. I've never been a huge fan of the shooter gallery games like that. Yeah.
No, as it happens, neither am I.
Yeah. Okay, well, why don't we come to our big main event then? The games of the generation, handheld edition. So we're mainly focusing, I believe, on the 3DS and the Vita. I mentioned that I might do the Switch this week, but honestly, I actually just decided, for me personally, I'm like, you know what? The Switch is an in-betweeny, you know? It's like 8.5 or whatever. So I've just ignored it pretty much. And I'm just like, someday I'll tell you all about the wonderful games I love on the Switch. But instead, I also focused on the 3DS and the Vita, which is a great time to get one, I would say, because they're probably just going to get more expensive from here on out. And
now's the time. They're not making any more.
Exactly, right?
Yep.
Paula, why don't
Both of them.
Exactly. Why don't you kick us off then? I feel Rick and I, we've talked enough. It's your turn.
just before you do, I've got to
yes.
jump in very quickly because I sort of picked 5.5 games, and I need to level the ledger. So, as you will remember, last week I mentioned a game called Deadbolt.
Yeah.
aka the Destinies going. You can also play that on Vita and Switch if you're so inclined. And for all the reasons that I talked about last week, everything still applies. It's amazing, and you should play it wherever you want to play it. On the toilet, on the bus, on your TV. As long as you play it, that's fine by me.
Nice. That's your half game. All right, good. All right, Paula, take us away.
Okay, so decided on games for this episode was a little bit hard for me because between the Vita and the 3DS, I think I play like 55 games or so. As a like individual gameplays, I think.
It's not too shabby.
Yeah, so what I did here is limit myself for games that came first on the 3DS and Vita. So sorry, Persona fans, no Persona 4 Golden here. Don't kill me. I love the game, but it wasn't released there first. So yeah, so that pretty much cut down like 80% of the games, and then I just try to stick to, with one exception, I try to stick to the games I've completed.
Nice.
So, as I continue to fan the flames here, one of the defining things, or at least a thing that defined the Vita for me, were the visual novels, because there's a lot of them.
Oh, there's a head-sized stack of games in her hand.
Yeah, there's like 20.
Yeah, and these are just like the ones that came to the West. Like, I feel that the Vita did like a great job to introduce many people to the visual novel genre. There are a lot of visual novels that actually made their way to other systems. So, don't kill me. But the first game here for today is a visual novel. Is God Realized Guardian of Rebirth. Nice. I choose this one in particular because I feel like the story is really solid, and I am a bookworm. I don't know if I told you that before, but this particular game has references to a lot of literary oh my god,
literature?
To characters and books, to popular characters in books. And this is like actually a game that I don't care to play over and over again, because each time I do, I find something else that is interesting. And I'm just gonna move on before I continue talking endlessly about that game. I just wanted to get that one out of the way first, because I actually tackle people that tackle the things that people may actually want to play.
Nice.
But yeah, this one is available on the Vita, on PlayStation 4, and Nintendo Switch.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, like we've sort of talked about, the Switch seems to be the successor for a lot of Vita stuff. But yeah, awesome. Thanks, Paula. Is that me? Okay.
Go on, you go next.
I'm going next. Woohoo! Okay, so this one, yeah, my experience with the 3DS and the Vita is kind of weird, because my 3DS, I actually ended up playing, I think, more DS games on it than 3DS games. And with the Vita, I ended up playing more like PSP games on it than PS Vita games. I don't know what it was. The Vita library, I didn't even feel was like super, super huge necessarily. But you're saying X, but I'm just saying the Vita library was great, but it wasn't my bag of tea, or cup of tea, I guess. So, but when it comes to the 3DS, my first one might be a little like controversial, I guess, but for me, it's Fire Emblem Fates. So the 3DS had some like amazing Fire Emblem games, like no doubt. And when I was going through, I played all of the 3DS Fire Emblem games. And when I was looking through my 3DS, I was trying to see, like, you know, the activity log, what was my longest played game. And by a disgusting margin, it was Fire Emblem Fates at 118 hours. And like, realize that's because it's Birthright, Conquest, and oh no, what's the last one?
Whatever the third one is. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Birthright, Conquest, and Revelations.
Revelations, yes, that was it. I was thinking Realizations, and I was like, that's not it. Revelations. And I loved it. Like, I know a lot of people complain. They're like, oh, why do I have to keep buying all of these? But like, they're each individual games, and like, their stories were genuinely different in each one. And like, playing through and seeing the different perspectives and the way that it all intersects together, and like, arguably Fire Emblem Three Houses probably does a better job in the sense that like, you can play 3 different houses and it's all in one game. But this one, it did it different, right? It did this thing where, yeah, you play as one side of the family and you love these characters and you're like, oh, they're the best, I hate those other group. And then you play as the other family and you're like, oh no, wait, these dudes are pretty cool. And you're like, oh, I don't know how I feel now. And then you get to play Revelations and you're like, yes, I love them all. And you have that moment where you just like get to see them all come together. And it was just like, plus also like on like a slight personal note, like this game, I don't know, I like many individuals our age have like dealt with mental illness throughout my life. And like, I had a depressive period when this game came out. And like, I just moved to a new city where I am now and like knew no one there. And this game just kind of came at the right moment. And like, there's some media that, I don't know, sometimes you just sink yourself into them and they kind of give you that sort of bounce. And like The Office was one of them for me. It was like, just watch that TV show when I was down. But like this game, it was just like that nice little comfort thing that I could like enjoy for a while. So it makes me feel warm and fuzzy. So I highly recommend it to people, though there are probably better Fire Emblems on the 3DS, but it gets the spot for me.
Nice. Right then, so for me, I had a real hard time with this one, much more so than last time, because most of the PC games I played were older, and I'd only had a PS4 for a couple of years. I still hadn't played a lot of the library. Between 3DS and Vita, I've actually logged over 100 completions, and I've got plenty left to play for both, in fairness. But I think I've got a pretty representative list. So first of my games of the generation is the BOXBOY series for 3DS, which you can also get on Switch. I think the latest one's come out there. So when I eventually get one of the little handheld consoles that can, I will be playing that there. It is a really minimalistic 2D puzzle platformer. The gimmick is that you can create Tetris shapes out of yourself, essentially. So you start as a 1x1 cube, and then from level to level, you'll be able to build a different number of cubes on top of yourself in any kind of shape configuration. So you might build yourself up and over into like an L-shaped Tetris hook to then jump onto and pull yourself up to reach a high ledge. You might just make a simple plank to get across a barrier. You might make a step to help you get up a high ledge. You might make a single one and drop it to activate a platform to get you somewhere else. And it's a really simple concept that over the course of 3 and I presume 4 games on Switch, they have wrung a crazy amount of life out of. With different types of boxes, with different environmental hazards. It's just crazy how much good stuff they've done with such a simple concept. And this is all in the context of me as someone who doesn't really engage with this kind of game usually. Normally I'd be bored a couple of hours in, but over the 3 games I've probably played about 6 hours each, so 18 to 20 hours. And every time I started one, I blasted through them. Like that was all I was playing until they were done. So, and they're really cheap, all 3 of them. And I don't know what the Switch one is. I don't think that was a full price release either. So
I don't think
for the cost of half an Anthem, you can probably get all 4. So that's my pick. Perfectly pitched, clean, simple puzzle platform.
Nice. All right, Paula, what about you?
Okay, for my next pick, it's something I feel like had such a good home like in the 3DS that I didn't know that the series actually originated back like in the Game Boy Advance times. It has been remade time and time again, at least for the first trilogy. So from the Ace Attorney series, I want to give a huge shout out to Dual Destinies.
Nice.
Because like if I like from all the Ace Attorney games that I played, like I play all of them except the Great Ace Attorney 1 and 2. Those are the only ones I haven't played. Like I feel like this one has to be like from the mainline Ace Attorney games, the best one. Because that is not counting like Mel's Edgeworth Investigations, because the second one is one of the best games I've ever played, but it's a DS game, so it doesn't have a place here.
It's true, it's
but
banished.
It is banished. But yeah, Dual Destinies in particular has one of my favorite, like, I guess, protagonist characters, that is Athena Sykes. And her character is just... I want to say this, like, pack of joy and all of that, because, like, this character in particular has, like, a lot of expressions. She seems to be, like, super cheerful, but you are reminded that, after all, she's also human. The Ace Attorney series has mostly always have, like, pretty good cases, and you always have, like, this overarching mystery. And if I remember correctly, this one doesn't have filler cases, or if it does, at most it has one. But from the colorful cast of characters to the story, to the overall gameplay, because I really enjoy what Athena brings to the table, and even the prosecutor, I feel, and right until the final case, because oh my god, this game is amazing. Because, like, many games do drop the ball, like, I've seen many games drop the ball, like, near the end, but I feel this game took the ball and ran away with it.
Hey.
Nice. Well,
so yeah,
I have to admit, yeah, I'm also a big fan, but I only have one thing to say. Objection. Next one on the next one on my list. No, I'm staying right here. I am home. See, that's because the next one on my list is actually Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, Spirit of Justice. I also
we tried.
Right? There you go. Hey, see, I love Dual Destinies. I agree with you. Here's the thing. Ranking the Phoenix Wright games for me is, like, pointless because I just love them all. But I felt like I really liked Dual Destinies as well. Some people give Athena, like, shit, and I don't understand why. Like, I thought that was a great character too. But maybe it was just, like, too much change or something. I don't know. I don't even know if fans know what they wanted, because people complained about Apollo Justice, and then they're like, oh, but now there's still this, and rah, rah, rah. But anyway, I really loved Spirit of Justice because I felt like it was, for me at least, sort of the first time that they got their new sort of 3D style, like, really, really well done. And, like, you know what I mean? Like, where Dual Destinies felt like it was like, oh, it was really, really good. And they were like, but it still sort of felt like they were kind of just working out the kinks a little bit of the new graphical style. Because for those who don't know, it was sort of pixel and, like, 2D hand-drawn animations. Well, not necessarily hand-drawn, but 2D pixel animations. And then it moved to 3D character models. And those models are actually really awesome. And I felt like Spirit of Justice just sort of upped it, like, a little bit more in their mechanics. And I also just think the story is so batshit in the best way possible. Like, they were finally just like, you know what? This game's nuts. We're just going to the spirit medium land and we're just going to have some fun. I was like, yeah. So that's the one that I would pick out of the two of them. But honestly, I think you can do no wrong with playing either of those games.
I have only
actually play them all.
Yes.
Objection.
Oh, they are all available in the 3DS. Go ahead.
Oh, Rick,
I'm going to one up because my next one is Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright. It's not. not. It's not. But imagine if it had been.
That would be amazing. I haven't actually played that one yet, but I think it would be. It's on my list right now. It's the next game I have to play on the 3DS.
It's my brother's favorite. For what that's
It
worth.
is pretty good, actually.
Yeah. Okay. I've heard it's good. Anyway. Okay. But actually, though, Rick, what is your next one?
My actual next pick is a game called Velocity 2X. It's a mashup between like a level-based shoot 'em up and a 2D side scroller. The unique mechanic is that you can teleport anywhere on the screen. So the puzzles are built around either teleporting between walls past projectiles or dropping teleport markers, shooting a key in one place and then teleporting back to the other place and zipping around the map. It's an absolute ketamine dream, but it's also really well done mechanically. There's a real sense of speed and agility. Not so much momentum. I think it's hard to get that in a 2D space, but definitely a feeling of flow. It's a strong sort of score attack because there is a rating system, but in the sense that you want to nail the run, you want to pick up every pickup, you want to not take any damage, you want to optimize your run to get the best lines to teleport to exactly the right place. It's playable on PS4. I would recommend playing it on a Vita if you have one, purely because rather than mapping the teleport to a press and hold of the square button while you analog move your teleport marker, you can just tap the screen and you'll teleport instantly to where you tap, which I've got both versions because this game's amazing and I'm an idiot. But the Vita version is the better version to play. But whichever version you play, it's really good. The square teleport does work.
I played this on the Switch actually, and now I'm thinking that they probably had touch controls on the Switch too, and I just never tried. But they might not. Because now that you're saying it, I'm like, oh Jesus, could I have just touched on the screen?
To be fair though, the Switch is a bit harder to get from the controller to any part of the touchscreen. The Vita is just at the perfect size where with either thumb you can actually overshoot past the analog stick and hit 95% of the places where you want to go. That's certainly how I did it anyway. And my hands aren't particularly sort of large. How did you find it on Switch?
Oh, it's great. It's a fantastic game.
Yeah.
I loved it, yeah. Tough as nails sometimes, but fair and like, I don't know. I got nothing but good things to say about it. It's just good. Play it.
There's something to be said for getting your ass kicked in a good way.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, Paula, take it away with your number 3. Well, no particular order, but the third one
It's my turn.
you
The third one I picked was everyone probably saw this coming, like The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. Oh my god, I can talk. So what I really enjoy from this Zelda is like it is like a modern take on the top-down perspective that the older games had. But with a twist, because you can actually merge on the walls with magic, and I found that mechanic was awesome because it opened up so many ways to do puzzles or so many other places. Plus, you can pretty much get most of the weapons like from the get-go, but navigating the dungeons is still satisfying. Like you can still get like a big item on a dungeon that is rewarding, and the gameplay is just plain fun because you can do I think with a couple of exceptions, you can do the dungeons like in any order you want, as long as you either have enough life or enough skill or the right item. And I just have to say, like, I enjoy like a lot of the characters of the game, like especially the one that is responsible of your of turning your home into a a weapon rental service, Rabio. At first, I didn't think much of the character, but the longer I played, the more I started to like the character.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like, it is a really solid Zelda game, and the collectibles are adorable because you have to save like these little Maya mice. And they sound adorable, they are adorable, they're the cutest thing on earth, and you want to save them because, like, come on, how are you gonna leave the poor creature there crying for its mother? So yeah, solid Zelda game.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I feel like, Paula, you and I are on the same wavelength, because my third on my list is also Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
amazing.
Phoenix, right? This one, we're just going up and up. Yeah, honestly, like, I'll just tag in with what you're saying. Like, that game, to me, it's interesting because this is why I hope I redeem myself a little bit from Spirit Tracks talks, but kind of everything that sort of bothered me a little bit, I feel like this game just sort of fixed. And I think the reason is that I just really love having more control over the character. Like, I like the stylus movement in the earlier games, but in this one, like, having that actual, like, digital analog, I guess, sort of control over Link, it just felt really satisfying for me, and that it made it feel like it could be a little more challenging. And I thought the weapon rental system it's really kind of a revolutionary idea for the Zelda games, and it sort of made it feel like the weapons were more valuable in some ways, because it was really like, okay, what do you think you're going to need? What's your loadout going to be for this next sort of mission? And instead of just like, all right, I'm going to go to this dungeon and all the stuff that I've gotten before this dungeon is virtually useless, and I'm just going to go in and use whatever's in there. But instead, you kind of had to think a little differently, right? It's like, well, you never know what you're going to actually face when you enter into this dungeon. Yeah.
The Battle Line is terrifying because they take away everything you didn't buy.
Right? Exactly. Oh, sorry, Rick. Yeah.
I just said that's heavy. I didn't realize that was how the rentals worked. That's fucked. Yeah. Which I suppose is a different way of saying I haven't played this game yet. And I suppose the usual caveats apply. We can only nominate what we've played.
I honestly, I would highly recommend playing this game. Like, it for me, I think it stands as like my favorite of the 3DS games. Like, it's probably the best one out there. Yeah,
I have it. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. So basically, my little brother got a 3DS 3 or 4 years before I did, and so ever since I've got mine, every time I see him, it's just like getting hooked up with a fresh game that I need to get around to. So I've got his copy of Awakening and his copy of Link Between Worlds, both sat waiting to be gotten around to.
Well, without any further ado, what's your number 3?
Yeah, rolling on. So shifting across to the Vita, my third pick is Ys VIII Lacrimosa of Dana, which is a phenomenal little action RPG. It's weird because for a game that has a mute protagonist, save the island, save the world sort of storyline, it actually is quite a compelling story. I think it's because the characters are quite well written, but really, if you're coming to this game, it is for the combat and the exploration, and it nails both of them. There's periods where I'd be playing and focused intently. There's periods where it would be very much a podcast game for me, but mechanically, the feel of the combat, the feel of switching between characters, exploiting weaknesses, powering up your moves. One of the things that the Ys franchise has done really well since they moved to this 3D action space with the character swapping, so the mechanics that they're stuck with at the moment, is that they really empower you to use your special ability. So in a lot of games, you have like a Super Saiyan type thing, which you can use maybe 3 times the whole game because you feel like you need to save it for a boss, or you need to know you've got it if you're in a bind. What Ys does is builds up a really solid combat loop because you get points for those moves doing everything. So you're encouraged to use your basic moves, to build up points, to use your bigger moves, to build up points, to use your ultimate thing. But the recharge is so quick that you never feel like you're going to be disadvantaged by using it. It always feels viable to pop one off because you know you're going to have it back again in a couple of minutes. which is a really roundabout way of saying that the mechanic design and the game design is on point. Everything about the game's on point. It is on PC, it is on Switch, it is on PS4 as well. For me on the Vita, it was just a lovely game to sort of curl up in bed with or curl up on a sofa with. And I really liked having it in the hand and close. But whatever you play it on, it is well worth a look for anyone who enjoys action or RPG or action RPG.
Nice. Awesome. Have you ever played those games, Paula? I've never played these games.
Before my old computer went up in films, I was actually playing East Origin. And I was having fun until my computer died. I haven't gone back to it. But I really want to experience like the East franchise like as a whole, because like even East Origin and even like the first East games have like even if the overall mechanics are like kind of simple in the beginning, they're still like solid to this day. Which I don't feel like a lot of games can say that about their like beginnings.
Yeah.
Sure. So just briefly for anyone who isn't aware, so the East franchise started and up until the PSP and the very end of the PSP's life actually as an isometric 2D sprite-based game. I mean, it was in a 3D space, but all of the artwork was two-dimensional. Initially with like a bump movement style combat, so you just walked into your enemy and the attack was automatic. So it was all about getting behind the enemy to do bonus damage, making sure you were attacked from the front to minimize incoming damage. And then they moved to a physical combat system. Then in the last 3 games, 4 if you count 9, which is out in Japan, comes out in the West very, very soon. It moved to a fully 3D action RPG with some little foibles of its own. But like Paula says, it's all still very playable to this day. I mean, for anyone who's on the forums, June's played everything up to 8, so he's got that to look forward to. But has talked about how all of those games, for the most part, hold up. Mostly it's quality of life stuff like fast travel and nice dungeon design where they fall short. But in terms of the core of the game, they're all pretty playable still.
Cool. Okay, Paula, hit us with number 4.
Okay, so how do I even introduce this? So I'm jumping back to the Vita for the 4th game. And I already say that I really, really enjoyed the Persona franchise like as a whole. I haven't played the first ones, but I really want to. But without further ado, Persona 4 Dancing All Night. Because first of all, I am pretty vocal about the fact that I feel like the Persona 4 is like out of the modern Persona games, the best one in my opinion, and it has like the best cast of characters in a way, or at least the more relatable, I guess. As in, like in Persona 3, they feel like in Persona 3 you are with your co-workers. In Persona 5 you are with your classmates, maybe some are friends. But I feel like the cast of Persona 4 is like more like your family in a way. And I always felt like Persona 5 was kind of like weirdly written, and I actually investigated on that on the confidence in that game were written like by 3 different people. So consistency isn't much of a thing. So going to Persona Dancing All Night, actually, I really, really, really enjoyed this game. Not only because, like, out of the dancing games, don't play 3 and 5, Dancing in Moonlight and Starlight. No, don't. Sorry, I have a bone to pick with those, but that is for another day. But this one actually has.
I was curious to hear that other day, but go on.
Yeah, this one actually has like a story mode.
It's a good story mode as well.
It is a story. it is a really solid story, and I was like, this was a rhythm game. I was like pretty much good with just I can see improve the characters and the rhythm mechanics aren't. But the story would actually surprise me.
They literally snuck like a 12-hour visual novel in, like with some dancing breaks in the middle.
I mean, it's my honorable mention, so yeah, we're on the same wavelength.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, nice.
I'm looking at you, Alex, like you don't know what we're talking about.
Oh no, I've beaten this game. Trust me, it's a great game.
Yeah, and even the dancing is like justified in the story in some way, which is which I found it's just nuts. And
aren't they training to be an idol group? Wasn't that the kind of the idea?
Rise's putting on a performance, and they've all got to go and help her out because it's a comeback gig, and she's a little bit nervous.
Yeah,
and then they find this new enemy that conveniently has to be beaten with the power of dance.
Yeah.
It's beautifully perfectly anime, so
yeah,
it is perfectly anime. And just gotta say, like, even like the choreographies and stuff, everything is catered like to each character individually, and I really love that because like that is another thing that is missing from the other two dancing games, because like they pull some bullshit and everyone can dance like perfectly. But like Persona 4 first has like awesome music, and the kind of music that it has lends itself really well to this kind of game.
Nice.
So just like, and plus the story, plus each character has like kind of shows their personality through their dance, and you have like a really enjoyable dancing game, and like even like the higher difficulties, like I've heard that this was like really easy compared to other dancing games because I haven't played other dancing games. The higher difficulties still kicked my ass, like a lot. And yeah, I think I told both of you that the only redeeming quality of the Persona Dancing Collection on the PS4 is that it has this game in HD.
Yes.
There you go.
I actually went and put like another 60 hours in that game.
Damn.
And actually beat the fog on King Crazy.
Man.
So I think a natural sort of segue from your game to my game. I actually picked, so I didn't even care. I know this game wasn't initially released on the Vita, but I don't care. I picked Persona 4 Golden because I just loved that. But see, that game is the reason to own a Vita, honestly. Like it like besides
Until a couple of months ago, it absolutely was.
Right? Like it genuinely, it's so good. I mean, I have all these fond memories of just like sitting in front of my TV, like watching stuff and just like playing Persona 4 on the Vita and being like, yo, this game's cool. Like I never thought I would dig it, right? I was like, what, like Japanese high schoolers? I was like, I don't care. But then like as I was playing it, I went, oh no, I care. I very much care. It's just like you said, the characters, the relationships. I mean, everything works so well. And you know, I agree with you too. I did find something about 5, and again, look, 5 is amazing. Like I love it, but I did find it was almost like it's like polished in a different way. Like Persona 4 felt more kind of cozy, I guess, if that's the right term. Yeah, you know, whereas Persona 5 is more cool, and that's fine. It's a different feeling. But I personally just sort of preferred that kind of cozy feeling of 4. And the turn-based combat was fantastic. The concept is amazing. I mean, it's a good game. And like, if you have a Vita and you haven't played it, do yourself a favor because you're going to enjoy it a lot.
Or if you have a PC, you no longer have an excuse because
it is now available on Steam.
It's now no longer stranded on the Vita Island. That's the one I was looking for.
It should
nice
be on
segue.
the Switch. But yeah, go ahead there, Rick.
It will be eventually, I'm sure. I almost picked Persona 4 Golden. So I was torn between picking it and the one I eventually went for, which is Shin Megami Tensei 4 on the 3DS. which I'm expecting Paula's going to have something to say about further down the line. Yeah, the shifty eyes are saying yes, she did. Persona 4 is wonderful. I gave 100 hours of my life to that game. It is an amazing game. It is a more than the sum of its parts game, though. The story is great. There's a little bit of fluff in terms of the moving around and some of the conversations. The combat's brilliant until it becomes way too easy, which also could partly be my fault because I did all of the side quests. So that around the mid game, I ended up being sort of 10 levels more overpowered than I was supposed to be for anything, with no hope of bringing that balance back. So the combat sections became a podcast game for me, and it's testament to how good that game is that it's still got a 10, because it is, even when it's stupidly too easy, still a really good time. Shin Megami Tensei 4 sort of goes the other way. It's what we were talking about before, a good ass kicking. That game demands something from you from the combat, but in return it gives you the best RPG I've played to date. It's beautiful on the 3DS. The 3D is really well done. The story is involved for a Shin Megami Tensei game, but not so involved that it takes away from the combat or the exploration or the anything else. The demon fusion's as good as it's ever been. The environments are interesting and fleshed out. The music, oh my god, the music. And this is a franchise that's known for its music anyway. Anyone who's got a couple of minutes, boot up YouTube and find the Tokyo theme from this game. It makes me feel things, man. It makes me feel things. But the best RPG I've played today. Interestingly, Paula, you'll know this, a load of people got stuck on the first boss on this game. And if there was any criticism to be made, like, the game does lead with a hard 1-2 punch to the gut before it levels out a little bit. And the first boss, this is the tiniest of spoilers, you are forced to fight with a AI-controlled teammate who just seems to want to spam the element that the boss reflects. Now, for whatever reason, the RNG gods were smiling down on me, and when I fought it, I beat it first time. And John used Agi, I think, once the whole fight. So I got away with one, but I know a lot of people struggle with that. But
I think I might be one of those people. I retired this game so fast. I played a few hours into it, and I was like, "What the hell is this game?" And I didn't understand. And I just popped it off.
There's no way you weren't the only one. Like they clearly could have play tested it a little better. But once you get out of that introductory cave, which you do, and I won't spoil what happens when you come out of that cave, because I think it's one of the many little discovery joys of that game. It not only levels out a bit, but it also really opens up, and you have more tools to fight it with. Interestingly, worse than the Minotaur, there's a secret boss, Beelzebub. I must have spent 5 hours. Yeah, I must have spent 4 or 5 hours just fighting this fight again and again and again with different demons and different configurations, trying to work out how the fuck I was able to get around it. And again, that's a testament to the game that it gives you that challenge, but it's also sunk its hooks in deep enough that you can't help but keep running into that brick wall.
Yeah. I think it might
I could keep going. I'd basically be saying the same thing again. It is a brilliant game. It's the best RPG I've ever played. And if you have a 3DS, you have a lot of explaining to do if you haven't at least considered getting the game.
Yeah, it's so sad.
I have a question for you.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Paula. Sorry.
Chaos, neutral, or lawful?
Neutral, baby.
Yay!
Every time. It's got to be.
Oh, jeez. All right, Paula, what about you? What's your last one?
This is actually my favorite game in the handheld department. Team Megami Tensei 4.
Okay.
Even before we came on, I knew that we would both pick this game. For a fact.
Yeah, I was fully expecting you to pick this game for your release. Otherwise, I would have been disappointed. So, as Rick already said, like, this has to be like the best RPG I've played. Yeah, period. Like, to be fair, I haven't experienced like a lot of the other Megami Tensei. I mean, I play like Devil Survivor, which is more like a tactical RPG.
Yeah.
And I think I'm about halfway through in Strange Journey Redux that I haven't touched in a couple of years because I was royally pissed at one character.
That game really kicks your ass as well. Strange Journey's lovely. That was the game that got me into the franchise. But that is a fucking hard game.
See,
with dungeons
it is.
that actively want to screw you.
I think I'm a Western RPG, like, just spoiled or something, or a snob or some deal. I don't know what it is. Some JRPGs, I get into it and I go, why am I in dungeons? What's going on? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know what it is. It's some kind of barrier for me. And this game had one of those, but I'm so glad to hear you two loved it. And I wish I had that experience.
That's so passy. I'm glad you liked it. Good for you.
No, but honestly though, it's like, and there's games that you're like, dang it, everyone loves it. Why don't I love it? Ah!
Literally me last week playing Super Mario World. So,
Yeah.
So, like, okay, back to the thing. Like, what I really enjoyed, like, the combat, because, like, with the press turn system, I feel the combat is so much more fluid than many other RPGs. Because, like, if you hit, like, the weakness of a character, or sorry, a weakness of a demon, you get, like, one more turn. But if they hit your weakness, well, you're fucked. So, and this goes like for the Tensei and Persona games in general, that they really make you feel like, okay, am I using like the right move? And this was actually one of the first. No, it was the first game for Atlus I ever played. Because I was literally like walking by that magical place where there's a lot of like video game stores. I kept seeing this game like through the glass, and one day I was just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna take it home.
Nice.
And I don't regret it at all. It is amazing. Like, and to comment a little bit like on the first boss issue, I guess. I was actually really close friends with one of the people that work at one of the game stores, and he said like, oh, you know what, like I really enjoyed this game, but a lot of the people like pick up this game came from like Persona 4, so they were expecting something along those lines. And then he said he actually checked every single save file of the return games. Every single one of them stopped at the first boss of the game.
So, yeah.
Every single one of them. And it was like, whoa. Because
see, that's so disappointing though, because like right there you have, I don't know. Anyway, sorry. It sort of bothers me because I'm like, that's where you have a clear flaw, right? Where it's like, because I was one of those people where I came from Persona 4 and I was like, I was ready to have an experience, and then the game just sort of locks me out almost. But anyway, sorry. You go.
No.
It's okay, because like it is I guess it is a valid it is pretty valid, because like even if they're like under the same umbrella, both of the games, Persona 4 and Megami Tensei, have like I guess really different I don't want to say views, but like they put like emphasis on different part of the gameplay. So as for Persona, like you have like the whole social thing that helps you in combat in the long run. But on Megami Tensei, you have to really master the combat and fuse your demons and pretty much use everything the game gives you like as a tool to overcome the challenges. The last thing I want to say, like, I like the alignment system of this game because it's not like a good, bad, or evil. Wait, no, what What the hell did I just say? Okay, it's not like a good or bad alignment system, but it's like a lawful or chaotic alignment system. And they fall right in the middle, which is nice. And the demon design for this game is just fantastic.
Nice. Thank you, Paula. Yeah, I'm going to jump in quick. This is my last one here. I cheated a little because I played this on the Switch, but it's also on the Vita. And probably my ultimate favorite handheld game, Stardew Valley. That game, I have put in more hours in that game than any human should put into games. I just so much. That's my Animal Crossing. I couldn't care about Animal Crossing.
That's your Rocket League. Scale of 1 to 900. What are we talking?
That's my rock. 5 maybe. Like it's like 500 probably. It's like a lot of hours on my Switch. It's always whenever it says time played, it's like Stardew Valley, and then everything else is just like I can't touch it. So I love that game. I don't even need to say much about that game. Listen, you like Harvest Moon, you're gonna love this game. You like Animal Crossing, you're gonna love this game. You like games, you're gonna love this game. It's just you're gonna love it. It's so good. That's all I'm gonna say on it. Because I think that game speaks for itself. Honestly, like play it, get lost in it, lose about 3 years of your life, and have a good time. Rick, what about you? What's your last one?
Well, my last one is sort of a last three. So my last one is Muramasa Rebirth, which up until I played 13 Sentinels was miles and away the best game from a mechanical standpoint that I had ever played, and I think I ever will. I'm sort of cheating because I feel like I want to bundle in the other Vanillaware Vita games, Dragon's Crown and Odin's Sphere, and with it.
Bundle them in.
Yes, I can.
Those are your honorable mentions.
They all share some mechanical similarities. They differ a little bit in terms of the way they lay it out and things they do around it. But Muramasa Rebirth is a mechanical masterpiece. The combat is perfectly balanced. Nothing is superfluous. Nothing is overpowered. Battles are never too easy. They always demand something from you. And for everything that you give to it, it rewards you with a feeling from the combat, with the flow, with points, with great feeling. I'm struggling for words. It is a game that defies explanation, save that if you have a Vita, you should play it, and it's criminal that it's still the only place you can play it. I mean, you can play the Wii version, but the DLC is arguably better than the base game in places, and that is stranded on the Vita. No, so buy a Vita now while you still can, and buy Muramasa Rebirth, because you should.
I loved that game. It was a good game.
So
why don't we real quickly now, we'll just list straight up our honorable mentions so that we can get to our viewer question. Paula, why don't you go ahead?
Yep. Okay, so Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, because two very good series. Stays Get Zero, the game that brought me to the Vita. Gravity Rush, I haven't finished it, it's great. Persona Q, beautiful game, great RPG, and Fire Emblem Awakening.
Nice. Mine's kind of similar to yours. I have 2 Switch games on there because whatever, I had to sneak them in. Hollow Knight, because it's the best thing ever. Return of the Obra Dinn, because what? So cool. Fire Emblem Shadows of Valencia, because I love some old school Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem Awakening, because I'm obsessed with Fire Emblem. And Persona 4 Dancing All Night, because that's some good old rhythm fun. All right, Rick.
There you go. One 3DS, the others are all Vita. So Etrian Odyssey 4, Legends of the Titan. I expect the others will all be better, but 4 was a great starting point for me and a real sort of time sink while I was playing it. The Hotline Miami Geology on Vita, in my opinion, the best place to play them, but that's just me. Severed, it's also on 3DS, but I played it on Vita. Really fun, short little dungeon crawler with some unique touch mechanics. I think you can play it, having said that, on mobile devices as well. The Swapper, it's available almost everywhere. Really beautiful claymation puzzler. It's one I play every 18 months or so because it's 4 hours and it's truly absorbing for the time that you play it. It's so replayable. And finally, Valhalla. I think one of the most highly rated games on Steam. It's also available on Vita and PS4. Really well written. It's just really lovely. Now that is cozy. Going back to your favourite word. Nice. It's a real cozy game.
Well, those
are my 5.
Nice. There you have it, everyone. Those are our games of the generation for the Vita and the 3DS, as well as our honorable mentions. Get out there, play some games, have some fun. And with that,
The generation is dead. Long live the generation.
yeah, it's long dead now.
Yep.
3DS officially died this year too. They ain't making no more of those. So let's move on to our question time. We have a question from, I've never had to really say users' names out loud, but I hope I'm saying it right. Findorb. Findorb asks, do you collect games? If so, why? If not, why not? I'm going to start because I read it. And yeah, come on, guys. All right. But so I'm a little weird. Like, I do collect and I also don't collect, right? Like, I'm kind of in this odd bundle here where, yes, there are some games that I collect. Like, for instance, I still have all my Xbox 360 games because they're pretty much worthless. Like, you can't sell those things. There's so many of them out there, right? And they're sitting in storage somewhere. I have handheld games because I find that handheld, like 3DS games, they never really get cheaper. But at the same time, I've also purged a lot of old things. I had a series of old Game Boy games and old Game Boy Advance games, but I just kind of purged them because the reality was that batteries were dying in some of the older ones, like the Pokemon games. And look, I'm not playing them again, And if I am, I have them on the 3DS now. So it's like, it was one of those things where I was like, is this just nostalgia talking, or is this like actual practicality? So I'm a little ruthless in that way. I had a pretty big PS4 library, but I purged a lot of the physical ones. But and when I say that, I sold them at like almost the price that I paid for them, sometimes more, because I get them on sales. So like, I try to kind of be economical with it, where like, I'll get a game on sale and then somebody wants to buy it like, for $20, and then someone wants to buy it for 40, and I'm like, like, it's one of those deals, like, and they want it, so I'm fine with it. So that's kind of like what I try to do, right? I'm more into collecting consoles than I am into collecting individual games. In that sense, like, I buy all games in a new generation, but I was a king of renting back in the day. I rented all the time, right? I love to just play a game. If it's a game that I love, I'll buy it and keep it. But I'm often just like, give me the game, play it, say goodbye.
It seems such a weird way to go around, though, to say I collect consoles, not games. It's like saying, I don't really use cars, I just get the tires.
But not really, though, right? Because when you think about it, the console's what drives it. So I just need to have the console to play the games, but I don't necessarily have to keep them when I'm done. Do you see what I'm saying? Sort
of. I suppose I get that. It's probably tricky because I'm exactly, just to segue, the opposite to you, in the sense that once I've bought something, unless I didn't like it, I'm generally keeping a hold of it. But I wouldn't necessarily call myself a collector. I'd call myself a retainer. I'm quite selective physically in terms of the games I buy for console. And for console, I am very, very pro-physical. For console and handhelds, the vast majority of what I buy is that way. And even if it's a game I'm not necessarily going to go back to, there is something nice about having it and being able to see it on the shelf, as stupid as that is. Mm-hmm. And barring like a financial disaster, I don't think there's a scenario in which I go and, to use your term, purge the games. If there's a game that I like, that I enjoyed playing, that I've got, I can't see a scenario in which I would look to get rid of that.
Something I should add, I've moved a ton. Like, I've moved all across the country. Yeah. And so a lot of those times I've had to get rid of games. And I also should say, I probably own well over 100 physical games. So like, maybe even almost 200. So like, I own a lot of games. It's just that these days I'm keeping them less, depending on the system. So
yeah, fair enough. It's okay. I mean, the interesting thing of the question is how you define collecting. Because for some people, that's, that there are the people who for some reason have decided they want every game for a particular system, which I get, but I also sort of don't. It's like I've got to catch them all sort of thing. But it's being into the Vita, there are a few people in that window who are like desperate to buy Tado Jones or whatever it is, like a Spanish only Vita game, or Handball 2016. It's like, do you really want to play either of those games? And if you don't, from my perspective, are you sort of missing the point? But then that's not necessarily what I would call collecting. It's certainly not necessarily what you would call collecting. It's tricky. What about you, Paula? What would you call collecting?
And
do you do it?
I mean, I do consider myself to be a game collector, but I do try to get the games that are interesting to me in one way or another. Especially like on systems that are like retiring, such as the 3DS and the Vita. Right now, like, if I have like disposable income for, I do try to get like some of the games because like they will go up in price. And like the Vita, the PS Vita store, it is hell to navigate. So like I am not dealing with that.
And it's the only game in town now because Sony decided that they didn't want a functioning online web store.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why that is, but like I do like to keep my physical games because it is something that I own and I can always go back to it, even if the service where they are. And this is like a big reason why I'm not too keen into like the rentals gaming system.
Fair.
Is because if that game like disappears from the platform, well, bye bye. Good riddance. Hope you actually got to play it. And that is like a scary prospect. And I do like to keep the games like as a library of sorts, because like it is like with books for me that I like to talk about the things I enjoy with my friends, and if they do happen to have a Vita or a 3DS or whatever system the game is on, I just like, okay, play this game, take it, give it back in however long it takes to beat it.
Nice.
So, and not gonna lie, like the biggest I guess fan of the gaming library is my boyfriend because he gets to play like pretty much everything from there.
Oh, okay, cool.
I rate that. That's a smart play.
Yeah, and I do let my sister or my nephew or another friend borrow my games from time to time, as long as I give it back. The Fire Emblem franchise is kind of like
that's what
being taken hostage by the game, but a friend.
Awesome. Oh, sorry. Anything else on there?
Just like, yeah, I like to keep the games because they may not be available on a later.
That makes sense.
Like later in the future, I do like to go back.
Yeah, sorry, I agree with you on that. Like, I'll do that for older systems, right? If I find them, like you're saying, cheaper. I think it's the modern systems when I just sort of don't really care. But yeah, I agree. Okay, thank you very much, Paula, Rick, and me. Let's move on then. I think really quickly, because we're creeping up on an hour and a half here. Why don't we just list what we're playing to give people a sneak peek of what we'll be talking about probably in the next few weeks. I'll start. Yeah, I just got Game Pass, so I'm currently playing The Outer Wilds, SSX, and Gunslinger. What about you, Paula?
I am playing Clerics Malice Unlimited, a Pandis, or a sequel to the original Clerics Malice.
Nice. And Rick?
I have got 5 games on the go that I'm quickly going to roll through. The first one, and I'm going to have a lot of explaining to do if I do end up finishing this game, is Rayman 3 for the GBA.
Nice.
So far, I'm legitimately liking it more than I like Super Mario World.
Cool.
Go figure. Blasphemous on PC. Totally get what you're saying. It's not a lot of Metroid, yes, a lot of Vania. And I'm not very far in it, but so far that's the impression I'm getting. I've revisited the base game of Control to sweep up some bits I missed the first time round. And also post-game, they added something called the Jukebox. So it's like Gauntlet-style challenges. So I'm doing those. Mad World on Wii is still great. And Shinobi on 3DS, which mechanically is great. Level design is kind of dead. But if I finish it, I'll have more to say. Lots more to say on that.
Nice. Okay. And with that, let's get to everyone's favorite game. How long to beat
the game?
Nice. You actually timed were perfectly on my end, so the audio listeners are probably like, "That was so excellent."
Hey.
Okay.
Right. Paula, you haven't done the randomize yet, have you? So do you want to do the honors this time?
Okie dokie. Dragon Ball Xenoverse.
Oh, Dragon Ball Xenoverse.
Ooh.
Okay.
Xenoverse, there.
Nice.
Interesting.
Any of you want to start? Because I had no idea.
I'm gonna say main game 20 hours, main game plus 26, and that's me. I'm saying 2.
Yeah, I know for a fact that the Xenoverse 100% is probably batshit high. Like, this is a crazy big game. Lord Almighty. I'm gonna go with something like 22 for main, and I'm gonna say 30 for main plus, but that's what I'm gonna go for. What do you think, Paula?
I'm trying to think. Who is keeping track of this?
Me, I've got it. Don't you worry.
Oh my god. I'm just gonna say main plus. Yeah, main plus. I'm gonna say 27.
Okay.
20. Nah. Okay, and we're all happy with the numbers we picked, are we?
No, but
I have
yes.
no idea, but yeah.
Happy enough to be going on with. Let's try that.
All right, you want to reveal it to us there, Paula?
Okay, main story 17 hours. Main story plus 31 hours and a half. Completionist 92 hours and a half, and all play styles is 28.
I think we all failed.
Yeah, no points this week.
No points this week.
I got close
no bueno.
to main plus, but main story missed. I knew it. I knew the completionist was insanity on this one. I was like, it's definitely up there in like the 90s or 100s. Dang it. Well, there you go, everybody. That's it for this week's episode.
We suck at this game.
We're very bad. Well, not, Rick and I are both equally good at this game.
Yeah. Speak for yourself, Paula.
All right. See you later, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.